Hello everyone. Today, let us delve into an exquisitely stylized film that evokes the essence of a shoe-in soul, brings forth a gothic rendition of Barbie, and a twist on Frankenstein aptly titled, Poor Things. This cinematic creation amassed an impressive array of accolades, securing 11 Academy Award nominations, seizing the coveted Golden Lion at the Venice Film Festival, and clinching both Best Picture and Best Actress at the Golden Globes. Despite these distinguished honors, the film has not been immune to severe criticism online. Poor things indeed. The intellectual depth of this movie is profound, with a firm grasp of certain doctrines necessary to fully understand its intricacies. We venture now into a feminist critique, a work of absurdity that confidently captures the audience's intellect. Poor Things. This film, an adaptation of the eponymous novel by a Scottish author, offers a distinctively feminine reinterpretation of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. It tells a tale where Frankenstein's creature is reimagined. A scientist resurrects a body not from grave-robbed parts, but from demise itself. The protagonist, Bella, is fashioned from a deceased being. The tale is set in a paradoxical future past that melds the antiquated Victorian era, our 19th century, with a technology far more advanced than our present, illustrating an era where humans possess the capability to create life, a parallel realm's retrospective future. The fabric of time is distorted, consequently warping reality itself. Director Les Moss employs fisheye lenses generously to render this spatio-temporal distortion, unifying perspectives and disorienting viewers, detaching them from a relatable foothold. Bella's genesis is one of madness and science, her form, originally her mother Victoria's, another victim to spousal abuse who meets a tragic fate late in pregnancy. The maverick scientist Godwin transplants an infant's brain into the womb of Victoria, begetting Bella. Note, Victoria, resonant of an era, becomes a metaphor for the prevailing world, while Bella, derived from Isabella, translates to God's promise in Latin, symbolizing the herald of a new world, a feminine Christ. Her creator and guardian, the unorthodox genius Godwin, whom Bella reveres as God, signifies victory of God. However, a nuanced interpretation might suggest a savior of God, allegorically Jehovah from the scriptures, where godly men create life. Godwin uses the lifeless body of a pregnant woman to engineer a new divine metaphor, a profound symbol that underpins the subversion of the biblical creation narrative within the film. Godwin, more than human, is riddled with physical imperfections, consequences of his father's deranged scientific ventures during his youth.
I am a eunuch and can't fuck her.
These imperfections serve to embody the extremities of contemporary scientism or the deification of science, proposing a doctrine where reason disfigures deity. Here lies the film's first grand philosophical proclamation: God is dead. Nietzsche's proclamation of Übermensch, Overman. After the disillusionment with Christian faith, Nietzsche invites humanity towards an affirmation of nihilism, overcoming it by aspiring to be Übermenschen. According to Nietzsche, history has yet to see an Übermensch. Neither Zarathustra nor Confucius was one. Nietzsche himself was not one, but Bella is. Transcending the inviolable societal values and norms. Within this post-civilized existence, only the natural, decivilized people have the potential to evolve beyond human limitations, paving the way for the emergence of the Übermensch. Godwin's aide Max, synonymous with the greatest, and metaphorically representing the pinnacle of male virtue, is likened to Adam from the Bible. It is Max who meticulously documents Bella's growth or evolution. Bella resides within Godwin's abode, a place teeming with hybrid creatures and beauty, symbolizing Eden from the scriptures. For Bella's awakening to occur, she must depart from Eden, hence the presence of the lawyer Duncan, akin to the serpent from the Bible. With Duncan's coaxing, Bella experiences the forbidden fruit, embarking on a flight from Eden. Here, Duncan embodies Satan, with the first appearance of an apple in the film marking Bella's discovery of sexual pleasure. The metaphor is explicit, since in the Bible the forbidden fruit is an apple. But the Bible's narrative of Adam and Eve is subverted in the film. It's Eve Bella who, with Satan, Duncan, partakes of the forbidden fruit. This act is the narrative's first subversive assault on the audience, thrusting Bella into a world of lasciviousness with Duncan cloaked in a loathsome carnal greed. In this depiction, their escapade typifies exploitation. While difficulties arise for the viewer in watching such distressing content, the director's intent is to shatter existing social constructs, erecting a sanctified sinner. The transformation of visual language is apparent, a shift from the monochromatic imagery within Godwin's domain to vibrant color once Bella departs, like a revolution unfolding. The warped fisheye lens morphs into a normal perspective, the lens distortion subsides as audiences are seduced into this world. As Bella's bare truths unfurl on screen, we're drawn so deep into this future past that we forget we're witnessing a world that isn't our own. Our discomfort stems from the misapprehension that this universe coincides with our reality. Then, the film erupts with expansive sexual imagery, erupting from London to Lisbon, abandoning narrative for the spectacle of sex in various forms and dimensions, intense, primal, grandiosely lit scenes of ecstasy. Bella, evicted from Eden, can never return to the domicile ruled by Godwin, nor reconcile with the archaic patriarchal ethics. In discussing the film Poor Things, we must address what is perhaps its most controversial aspect: sexuality. For this movie, sexuality is not just a visual device, it extends to be both a dramatic and a philosophical language. For those well-versed in sexuality studies, you might consider skipping this part, as we fragment the narrative into 4 distinct stages of sexual development. The first phase is Bella's masturbation, marking her sexual enlightenment. The second phase involves Bella's sexual awakening with Duncan. The third phase sees Bella as a sex worker, engaging with various men, symbolizing a passage through sexual rites. In the fourth phase, Bella faces a sexual crisis. Her father, who is also her husband Blackston, intends to castrate her, a portrayal of fear surrounding sexuality. Metaphors are rife within the film, such as symmetrical decorations resembling wombs and ovaries spotted throughout Bella's house. The costume team meticulously designed a shirt symbolizing the female genitalia as part of Bella's infant wardrobe. Then there's the Parisian brothel with its massive phallic ornaments displayed in the windows. At one point, Bella dons a cloak reminiscent of a condom. Sexual symbols are omnipresent and absurdly conspicuous. Their brazen display a literal flight of vivid imagery. Every setting in the film, including Bella's home, the brothel where she works, the yachts in Paris and Lisbon, were built as actual sets, with only the skies, the sea, and non-existent animals generated through special effects. Directors like Les Moss and writers like McNamara thrust sexuality right into the viewer's face without leaving any room for evasion, which can be excessively unsettling for some. The saturation of sexual content brings up the question, is it a male gaze from male directors and writers? Is the actress Emma Stone being objectified, exploited, or sexually taken advantage of? To cut through the heart of these issues is to question the morality of sexuality itself. Before the civilizing forces of society, humanity knew no concept of morality. It was a construction to maintain order. Primitive sexuality was devoid of morality. It was raw instinct, the genesis of life. Matriarchal societies revered fertility, interpreting sex true to one's heart as divine and unfaithful acts as sacrilege. In these societies, females were esteemed as the sex of gods because, like gods, they could create life. Anthropological studies suggest that human societies commonly harbor myths of earth-bearing deities like Hapi from ancient Egypt, conjuring life from the fertile Nile mud, or the Persian goddess Anahita, whose emblem was a lotus, reminiscent of female reproductive anatomy. Divine creators tend to be goddesses, thus childbearing women were perceived as the gender of gods. Matriarchal societies were governed by the Great Mother whose power stemmed from the spiritual significance of life and fertility worship rather than brute rites. In such societies, sexual love, stemming from affection, was not only moral, it was sacred. With the advent of patriarchy and its coercive rule by men, this reverence for fertility had to be suppressed, women relegated to the status of the second sex, stripped of divinity. Initially, this suppression took a brutal form. With fertility's value denied, life itself became trivial, giving rise to the horrors of human sacrificial cults. The essence of these cults was to dismantle the fertility worship of matriarchal societies. When human life could be so flagrantly violated, fertility was no longer sacred. Marriage, marking the privatization of women and children, emerged during this period. However, the disregard for procreation led to a population crisis. A cunning evolution of patriarchy produced a two-tiered sexual system. Sex within marriage was deemed moral, while extramarital sex was impure. Essentially, sexuality as property was moral, but women's sexual agency was not. Sexual stigmatization, virginity complexes, and ideals of monogamous purity are ideological constructs, removed from the essence of human nature and act as literal and figurative shackles, the slut-shaming mechanism. Our discomfort with Bella's overt sexuality, her bare intimacy with Duncan, is underpinned by an implicit thought. How can such a beautiful woman be so promiscuous? How can she expose herself before the world's men, masturbate publicly, indulge her desires, engage in sex work? As Bella is coerced into sex work, Duncan's outraged cries of
"I'm here to save you. You're whores!"
resonate as a potent example of sexism. Why should a man who boasts of his conquests judge a woman for her single sexual encounter? His moral standing is a testament to the mechanism of slut-shaming. Feminine sexuality is captivated and privatized, and the victim is subjected to a second assault through stigma. The world's distorted view that scrutinizes the slut but ignores the womanizer reveals the inexorable gendered tyranny. Always the slut and never the philanderer, isn't it? Fortunately, Bella does not succumb to the implantation of a slut-shaming mechanism. Any feminist discussions that do not break away from the stigmatization of sexuality are dominated by patriarchy because the very foundation of patriarchy is the stigmatization of sex. Similarly, any feminist discourse that does not transcend gender opposition is flawed, as it implies that without men, there can be no sex, and without sex, no life, and without life, no divine femininity. A feminist woman is not merely a being distinct from a man. Gender should above all be human. Feminist criticism should not need the absence of men to prove its point. Returning to the film, after Lisbon's desire, Bella is kidnapped onto an ocean-going vessel where she meets an intellectual old lady and a realistic man named Harry. The former represents Bella's enlightenment in thought, clutching Goethe's works, the embodiment of the Enlightenment.
What's in between my ears is my big concern. What's in between my legs? Much less so.
The latter symbolizes Bella's awakening to harsh realities.
Polite society will destroy you.
Harry exposes Bella to the impoverished lives of the lower classes, symbolized by Alexander, leading her to a profound awakening that heralds a new kind of humanity, emerging from primitive naturalism to civilized humanism.
A lot of dead babies.
We must go help them.
Bella loses her desire to sleep with Duncan, replaced by a newfound love for reading, mainly the works of Emerson, a key philosophical figure associated with transcendentalism.
I am reading Emerson, who speaks about the improvement of men. I do not know why he does not give advice to women. Perhaps he does not know any.
Emerson, lauded as the father of American civilization by Lincoln, advocated for direct communication between man and God, and the divinity within humanity. Transcendentalism asserts that one can transcend senses and reason to directly understand the truth, that all existence is but a microcosm of the universe, with the world condensing itself into a dewdrop. In the storyline, Duncan's tossing of Bella's book into the sea echoes Bella's direct encounter with divinity and transcendentalism, paralleling her journey in the Parisian brothel, the very place of her sexual pilgrimage. Alexandria, a setting within the film located in Egypt, cues a biblical reference likening Bella's journey to Moses' exodus and salvation. Bella's liberation begins with her departure from Egypt to the brothels of Paris, a redemption story turned on its head, subtly challenging biblical patriarchal narratives. Freed from conventional values and refusing slut-shaming, Bella in the Paris theater places utmost value on her own experiences, embarking on a series of sexual adventures.
I need sex and money. I could take a lover. Hence, I seek employment.
While Bella's descent from the glittering upper crust to the sordid underbelly of Paris might evoke discomfort among viewers, the director intends to provoke such unease.
Fuck! You hold yourself!
The discomfort arises from our ingrained judgmental mechanisms at work, assessing Bella through intangible rules, much like Duncan's self-righteous declaration of forgiveness despite her perceived fall from grace. But why does she need our forgiveness?
So I'm here to save you. I'm almost ready to forgive you.
We are our own means of production. Go away.
Bella's response in the film sends a shiver down my spine. A statement profoundly socialist. Even more structurally, the two sex workers in the brothel are socialists, birthing the third key philosophical concept, Marx's socialism. This philosophy brings to the table a critical idea, subverting all isms to bellification. Bella finds the highest morality. It's not sex that's immoral, but forced sexuality. The greatest moral duty is to be true to oneself, fully invalidating the paternalistic savior narrative. Women need no saving. Least of all by the paternalistic would-be saviors, rendered both ridiculous and pitiable, much like Duncan in the film. Some female viewers might deride the male-directed choice of male characters as ugly, filthy, and stupid, aligning with what the director aims to portray. The men attempting to control Bella and the women who try to slut-shame her are equally abhorrent and foolish in their selfishness. It is not men saving women but women, and here, the sex worker Bella, who saved the pitiful and poor men.
My boys are orphanage for education, sexual. I will demonstrate.
This recalls the socialist director Oshima Nagisa's film, In the Realm of the Senses, a banned film inspired by the story of Sada Abe, the infamous Japanese penis killer. A detail in the movie shakes me profoundly. Abe, a former prostitute, encounters a dying old man she once serviced who wishes to be with her one last time before death. In an act of grace, despite no payment, she obliges the pitiful old man. Here the narrative subverts the moral system. It's not men saving fallen women but women saving men through sexuality, which becomes a tool to deconstruct gender power structures and a form of spiritual practice. Ultimately, the moralities we observe are tools of patriarchy. Feminism cannot afford to ignore sex. Oddly enough, any discussion involving sex is often misconstrued as female objectification. Yet, as autonomous beings, women too have their own sexual needs. True liberation for women surely begins with the liberation of sex. In society, two forms of sexuality exist: the biological and the ideological. Slut-shaming and self-judgment belong to the latter. But Bella's sexuality is biological. Women must confront sex and desire head-on to escape archaic morals and the slut-shaming mechanism. It is through unshackling old morals that Bella transforms into the new creation, introducing the most foundational philosophical concept, the new being. This concept, born from the Bible, holds that if anyone is in Christ, they are a new creation. The old has passed away and the new has come. With the stage set for humanity, socialism calls for the new being. Soviet socialists envisioned such a being living within a glass house, and the now bygone Soviet Union aimed to cultivate the Soviet new human. Bella's transformation necessarily cuts ties with the old, epitomized by her father and husband Blackston, a dramatic portrayal of patricide. The film is powerful in its depiction of Bella, a daughter, wife, and mother, roles all women under patriarchy are subjected to. Bella contrasts with the civilized by her infantile brain development, mature in body but juvenile in spirit, navigating the world more by intuition than rationality. Our age gives precedence to reason, neglecting the divine and sensory perception. We seek to understand the world rather than feel it. It's only when Bella utterly rejects the paternalistic ideology that she becomes the other of patriarchal society, beyond the control of its sexual dictates. How does patriarchy respond? It seeks to destroy her sexual capability. Enter Blackston, the symbol of pre-modern societal power, pre-scientific divine power, power as the institutionalization of violence. Consequently, he is depicted as a general, armed and alongside Duncan, emblematic of patriarchal violence with Duncan representing seduction. A con of the patriarchy coalescing into a complete metaphor. Blackston intervenes in Bella and Max's wedding, abducts Bella, and attempts to excise her genitalia, as Bella rejects his control and the privatization of her sexuality. In an act of resistance, Bella replaces Blackston's brain with that of a lamb, signifying non-violent animals and the biblical lost sheep, an indictment of power worshippers' ignorance. The patriarchal god Godwin must pass away, representing scientific brutality, unnatural dissection, and transplantation. Science is absurd in its belief that it can alter nature, but it has never created anything. It merely discovers and exploits natural laws. As for rationality, it can't escape its own paradox, as confirmed by Gödel's incompleteness theorem. As for Bella, she represents the de-civilized being, where established order is radically negated, ideologies proving feeble before the child. An infant cannot be a liberal nor a socialist but possesses the keenest awareness of the world through sensory experience, an ability we adults have forgotten. Bella, stripped of her civilization, transforms into a new construct, a new human being, a Hue woman, her loyalty to sensory perception leading to self-discovery. She becomes a mistress, a pauper, a sex worker, a doctor, and ultimately an Übermensch, a new god. Poor Things looks not to the past but to the future. It prophesies a humanity where God is dead, reason inflated, science deified, and women still trapped in gendered dilemmas. The divine, crippled by science, creates anew, spurring another revolution, away from science's Eden and into the wilderness of human nature. Then the god of pre-modern society returns, seeking to confine again within a prison of power, but the awakened beings no longer submit. They rebel and propel humanity into the final future, the primal matriarchal crack. Sex is plentiful but transcendent because at its core, sex is life. Bella in the end forgives the god and becomes the new god, like humanity forgiving the divine, becoming new gods themselves. Women forgive men and emerge as the new central gender. Humanity's future returns to its ancient past, the matriarchal society where the spiritual power of the Great Mother calls once more. This is the legacy and the trajectory of mankind, the story set in a past future but concluding in a future's past. The director's most profound philosophical statement about time: only by transcending time does one become the Übermensch. It's been a long while now. Whether you've transcended this realm, I extend my heartfelt thanks for staying with me through this discourse. Through this video, I hope to offer a refreshed worldview and values to provoke deeper, broader reflections on feminism, not just limited to the conflict between the sexes, and on morals. The greatest morality is to discover and be faithful to one's own heart. At its core, what metaphor does Poor Things evoke? Who does Poor Things refer to? In essence, it speaks to us, the pitiful men, lost in self-deception about our strength, caught in absurd displays of control over women, or boasting of sexual conquests as a measure of success. This is an absurdity, a folly, and then we adhere to a slut-shaming mechanism to bind a woman by our side, making her our private property. Feminism should not be misled by simple gender opposition. As a man, I might be chastised for asserting this, but I trust there are women who grasp what I am saying. Slut-shaming and slut humiliation are the accomplices of scoundrels and devils. The stigmatization of sex is an injustice inflicted upon women, for it targets them uniquely, not men. Lastly, as to whether sex scenes exploit actresses, Emma Stone herself has stated that filming the sex scenes was the easiest part. She found learning to walk like a baby, or the shock and pain of eating 60 tarts, alongside witnessing decay and death, much more challenging than the sex scenes. For Stone, the abundant sex scenes in the movie are not moral issues but professional ones. How she, as an actress, chose to convey her character through sex is admirable. The film remains a product of the Hollywood production system, subservient to an established order where old god Godwin still reigns. Thus, one cannot expect breakthroughs from reality, for it remains a Hollywood film. I dare not claim that male directors or writers are entirely devoid of voyeuristic motives. The subject is highly subjective. I'd like to emphasize the reflective value the film itself provides, which is enormous. This is why I craft these film reviews. This video was lengthy, and I deeply appreciate you watching it to the end. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to my channel, activate the notification bell, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.